Phone says 7. Are you good, Bart?
Yeah, whenever you want to go.
Okay, well, it says 7, so we'll start. All right, we're going to call to order the Town of Farragut's Visual Resources Review Board meeting for August 2021. So the first item on our agenda tonight is the approval of the minutes from our July 2021 meeting. Any questions or comments from the board relative to those minutes? All right, do we have a motion?
I'll move for approval.
Alderman Pinchot motions for approval. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, Mr. Armstrong with a second. I know we've been doing roll call votes, Bart. Do we need to continue doing that, or can we go back to the old
That's
IA
up to y'all.
system?
That's up to you.
Why don't we just go to all in favor, say aye. That'll be a little quicker and easier then. That's all right with everybody.
Yeah.
All right, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so the next item on the agenda is election of the officers for the board. There are 3 positions that we elect for annually. The first being the chair, second vice chair, and third being secretary. The listing of the current officers is in your on the agenda items. So what we've done in the past is take each one individually with a nomination for each position and then a vote. So we'll start with the chair and with nominations.
I'd like to nominate you.
Okay. I'll accept that.
I'd like to second that.
Okay. So we have a nomination and a second. Hearing no other nominations, we will move for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So the next position would be the vice chair position. Do we have nominations for the vice chair?
I would nominate Brittany Moore for vice chair.
I would second that.
Have a nomination and a second for Brittany Moore as vice chair. Any other nominations? Okay. We'll vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And then
That'll teach her not to show up.
That's it.
That's right. That's what happens when you don't show up. And then lastly, we have the secretary position. Do we have a nomination for secretary?
Can I nominate again?
You
Yeah.
may.
I will nominate Secretary Stowe for the secretary position.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
I'll second it.
Nomination second. Are you good with that?
I'm
You're
good.
good.
with that.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Congratulations to all. And to Brittany, who is not here.
Lucky she's not chairman.
All right, so we'll move down to the ground mounted sign applications. So the first item, or the only ground mounted sign item application, is Luna Boutique Tenant Panel Sign on 11320 Station West Drive. So then I'll turn it over to you, Bart.
Sure. This is a request for just your standard tenant panel. It's on an older sign structure that's been in town for a long time. You're all, I'm sure, familiar with it. It's out there at the Appalachian Log Square development out on North Campbell Station Road. It's, it's a little hard to see there, but, the coloring, will match the other colors. That photo's a little faded out, but it'll look okay. It'll be on both sides like all the others, and it's clearly legible. It's a fairly large sign, fairly large tenant panels, so staff can recommend approval of it.
All right, with that, are there any questions or comments for staff from the board?
I've got a question. This has probably been grandfathered in, so there's no maximum on square footage or anything, or do we have anything to work with here as far as size at all?
No, I mean the overall structure is there, and all the other signs are on it. So they're just adding a tenant panel to an existing sign. If they took the whole thing down, then
Then we would-
everything else would have to come into compliance.
Got it.
But they're just adding a panel to the existing sign.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Does the difference in color matter?
You know, like I said, when I went out there and looked at it, you know, that's a little faded out, but, you know, the color that they're proposing should go along with most of the others. Obviously, it won't be exact because some of them been up for a while, but,
Yeah.
you know, but it'll be in the same general look of the others.
I think it looks fine, but I'm just curious how old the sign is.
I have no idea.
Okay.
It's been there for a few years. Yeah. Well, it looks legible, and it looks to be in line with what else, with all the other signs that are on that structure.
Yeah, if you can see the dimensions there, it's 91 inches long. So it's quite large and 9 inches high. So it'll be very, very legible.
It would be nice if the other people on that sign would change to that color. It stands out very much better than the others.
I mean, that's a pretty recent picture, I'm guessing, so all the other signs on there are still legible and readable and in
Yeah,
pretty
they
good
are.
shape.
And like I said, if you go out there and look at it, the photo's a little washed out. The colors are a little bit brighter and a little closer to what's there. There's one that's a little darker background than the others, but they're all sort of a deep red.
Okay. And the material they're going to use for the new panel would be the same as the previous panels? Yeah, okay. All right. Any other comments? Good. All right. If there's no other questions or comments, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept it as it is.
All right, motion to accept by Ms. Stowe. Do we have a second?
I'll second. Sorry. That's all right. First, second.
Got a second by Mr. Armstrong. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Who seconded? Randy or, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so now we'll move down to the landscape plan applications. So this one being the under construction Kingston Pike Village Phase 2 grocery and shops, which is near the Little Joe's out there. And we've looked at this once before, so they've made some changes to it since our last time.
Yeah, I'll explain what's going on, and I think there's someone here too for the item if you have any questions. This development is going in down next to Little Joe's and behind. This is the second phase of the development. The apartments are back up further on the hill. And then this is the commercial component of a larger planned unit development that's being done or planned commercial development. It's been underway for a while. There's the previous engineer that was working on the project unfortunately passed away. And so it was in the middle of revisions of the site plan. So they're trying to get the site plan amended to make some changes, and because of the changes to the site plan, they had to make some changes to the landscape plan to go along with that. So you did review this, I think it was back in February, I put in the notes that when you first approved this, for this phase of the development, some changes that have occurred since you last approved it was they eliminated the fire apparatus circulation all the way around the building. They now just have some fire access here, but it turned out they didn't need the parking behind the building and the circulation all the way around the building. So that was eliminated, and that was actually one of the board's concerns on the previous plan was conflicts with fire trucks as the trees grow up. So that's actually simplified things a little bit. Part of what's driving this is they've worked out a property swap with Little Joe's Pizza to square up the property lines in there. They're going to have a permanent access easement that runs through that connects this development with Little Joe's Pizza. So right here is that, and I'll show you on the blow-ups too. And in doing so, they had to move the buildings a little closer together, so that impacted. They changed the parking in this area and made it angled parking. And so that changed a little of the landscaping in that area. They put a drive access up through here that will tie into the rest of the site, but that precipitated some changes. Then also that plus the land swap they did to the detention basin. So most of the detention basin was actually on phase one. So this will amend that portion of the phase one plan and, will supersede that, this section of the landscaping plan for phase one. And then the whole development will, or this whole plan that you're looking at tonight will supersede the one that was approved in February. So those are the principal changes. A little bit of a zoom in on each section. The detention basin area was enlarged a little bit, and it comes down now with this sort of, boot-looking area. The walkway was moved over and kind of runs along the parking and traffic access. So they had to revise the landscaping around the detention basin. It's in compliance. They have more than enough trees in there to meet their minimum requirements and more than enough percentage of the flowering variety. That's the principal change on this section of this phase of the development.
I got a question.
Sure.
Should it bring it up now or wait till he's done with the presentation?
If you got a question on this sheet, that's fine.
In the top right corner there, can you explain what that is? Right there, that area? What is that?
Well, this is sort of a phase line between phase one and phase two. So there's a walkway that runs up through here.
To the right of that whole, that whole area, what is that right there?
That's a portion of the parking lot.
That is parking?
Yeah. If I go back, it's this area here.
Okay, because originally we had a road going around the building for the fire truck. Now that's no longer needed.
That's right.
Okay, what is the dark spot?
That's an area that they're counting towards their minimum amount of landscaping they have to put in around the buildings.
Okay, so it's not a structure, it's landscaping.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So this is what I have on this one. The next sheet is the grocery store area in a blow-in. Again, here's that dark area you were just asking about. It is all this landscaping. This used to be the circulation area. It's not anymore. Here now is fire access. They eliminated the parking that was all back through here. So it's simplified it a little bit. They've got plantings all the way around the building, the backside of the building. They're putting in a good bit of landscaping behind, which would be nice. And as properties to the west develop, they'll have some screening and some landscaping there on the back of the grocery. But the major change here is the elimination of the parking and the circulation all the way around the building.
Do you know what the name of the grocery store is?
I believe it's going to be a food city.
Food City.
Oh, that'd be good.
And then this is the lower portion of the development. The two retail shops, as I said, were pushed a little closer together, so there's a little less landscaping in between. Some of the landscaping that was out front here was eliminated because of the angled parking, although the Planning Commission is requiring them to go back and put in a landscape island in front of the buildings, I guess one in front of each one, to put some of that back in and to break up that parking row. So, that's, one subject to that, the plan, if you have a mind to approve it tonight, to do it subject to those two islands being added in.
I've got a question about that.
Go ahead.
Are we talking plants or are we talking trees?
Probably a combination of both.
We really want to put trees right in front of the,
Yep. And the island there. I mean, they have more than enough trees, so they could get by without them. I mean, I don't know what y'all are thinking at this point. But there are ample trees on the site, so I could check and make sure. I don't think you have to put a tree in the island, so you could just put in, put in, lower growing things.
What are they, is the islands going to take up one parking
Yeah,
space?
pretty much.
Two, just one? So that's about the width of what it will be?
Yeah, not exactly, because the minimum width on an island, on an internal island like that, I think is 7.5 foot wide, and a parking space is usually 9. So, but the planning commission did want these two rows of parking broken up, so they'll have to add an island in each one. And it was my understanding, Annette, that it was just across the front of the building, right? Not back along this row?
Correct.
Yeah, so one island in here and one island in here somewhere. So they'll have to reconfigure that and just add, sort of like you can see back here, they have an island here in the parking. They'll have to put one here and one over here. Here's where the access is now going to be through to Little Joe's. That'll be a permanent easement for circulation. It'll go all the way through to where their current cut is on Watt Road. And then this is the access back this way to, where traffic can circulate back towards the gas pumps, back towards the apartments if they want to. Before the meeting, Alderman Pinchuk, you were asking me about the sign. This is it right here.
Great, good. I'm glad it's been planned in already.
They obviously, given the site, there's not a lot of frontage on Kingston Pike, so they couldn't get 20% of all their shade trees along the frontage of these buildings. So, but they do have quite a few of trident maples, which is a smaller maple here along the front. And so.
I wonder how those two trees, the tree on either side of the monument sign is going to affect the visibility of the sign itself.
That was actually, they originally had something there that was probably going to be more problematic. I mean, the sign can only be, 92 inches tall. So as the trees grow up and they prune them up, that shouldn't be a problem. The landscape architect had originally put in something that Mark caught, and he thought that as it filled out would potentially block the sign from view. So we asked the landscape architect to change that, and he did.
Is that sign going to be the sign for the entire development, including the grocery store, or just for the retail shops?
It's certainly the only sign they're going to have on that frontage.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure what they're doing. They haven't turned in a design on the sign yet.
Will there be a sign for the gas portion of the property?
Well, they'll be able to put up the typical signage they can on the canopy and that sort of thing. So yeah, there will be.
But they could put a sign over along Watt Road. Would they have frontage over there that they could use for signage for that?
They might be using that for their apartments.
Okay.
Because that's the main access into the apartment area.
Mm-hmm.
But on the architectural renderings, they've shown signs, kind of typical on the building, but that'll all have to come through the normal permitting process, and they'll get the amount of wall signs that they're allowed, and then they'll get the amount of ground signs that they're allowed on the site. But but they haven't made any formal applications for any of that yet.
Bart, would you mind going back to the overall view?
Sure.
Okay. So I know this is not our concern.
Sure.
There is no, the only way out of the gas station is to come back and go behind Little Joe's, right?
No, they could, if here are the gas pumps,
Uh-huh.
they can come back out this way
Oh, okay.
and go back out that sort of traffic circle area and back out to Watt Road.
Okay, got
They
it.
can come down and go out Little Joe's, or they can come across and
Right.
come out the main entrance here between the credit union and the
Gotcha.
retail shops.
Yeah, I forgot about the upper exit.
Yeah. And actually, just as part of this, it doesn't really impact the landscape plan for this site, but as part of the deal they've worked out with Little Joe's, the existing access to Little Joe's there on Kings Pike is going to actually close. Little Joe's access will be through this development on a permanent basis or from their Watt Road access, you know. And that's good from, just from a, you know, from a
Yes.
traffic standpoint,
Yeah.
because that was so close to the corner. So
Yeah, I
that's
was
a-
going to ask about that. I
Yeah.
think that's a good change.
So did they swap land or just allow Little Joe's to park in their parking?
There was a bit of a land swap.
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
How many apartments will be there?
You know, off the top of my head,
Do you know?
I want to say somewhere around a little over 200, but don't hold me to that.
I heard 220 or 240.
Yeah, I don't have the exact number in my head. It's a fairly large apartment complex.
Where will the apartment complex be?
I guess I should have, for people who aren't familiar with it, it's, you know, here's Watt Road heading towards Old Stage, right? And, you know, so this is that hillside that they're grading up there. So the apartment's set back in here.
Okay.
So, like, this phase line is actually a bit of a retaining wall through here. And then down along here, and so it steps up, and I think if I'm remembering right, the clubhouse for the pool area is in here. And then there are a number of apartment buildings. I could show you the plan sometime if you wanted, or send it to you, but yeah, the first phase of the development includes the main access off of Watt Road. There's like a little traffic circle type thing that it leads up into the apartments, and this is sort of the boundary line between the apartments and the commercial development.
Okay, and it said there was parking in the original plan that was eliminated. Do you know where that would be?
It was behind the grocery store. They had it wasn't a large parking lot area, but they had some spaces back there. And by having the spaces back there, then the fire trucks had to be able to get back there, and so when they were able to eliminate that, it simplified their plan in that portion of the site.
Okay.
So the retaining wall that you see out there now that's under construction, the apartments are going to be above that. Is
You
that
know,
what
I've not
just
driven out
said?
there in a little while, so I'm not sure which wall you're talking about.
Okay. Well, I was trying to figure out what he was,
Yeah,
It's a back
they're
wall.
putting in a large retaining wall to hold the hillside back, and then
oh,
there'll
it's
be
going to be in
apartments.
front of
but-
that.
Yeah, but then there'll be another step
Another
down
retaining
from
wall.
where the apartments are down
Okay.
to this commercial area.
That's why I was trying
Not-
to get my bearings on. So
Yeah.
the one that's out there, which is a big one, is going to be behind the apartments. Then apartments, then it steps down again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and the step down to the commercial area is a, a much shorter, wall. It's,
All right.
it's not a 30-foot wall or anything like that.
So I think we talked about this before. There's some landscaping along the wall there, but we don't need as much of a barrier between the residential and the commercial in this case.
No, and there's landscaping on the Phase 1 plan that you already approved along this boundary area. So
Okay.
there's, you're not seeing the whole thing, you're just seeing a piece of the development.
All right. Okay.
Well, the only other thing they need is a Starbucks, isn't it?
Well,
Otherwise, it's pretty.
maybe they'll get one in one of these shops.
That's true. That's true.
So, again, we went over it, they have all the plannings they need, it's compliant from that standpoint. We can recommend approval, subject to them adding the 2 islands that the planning commission is asking them to put in, and that's a pretty minor change, so,
I'd like to suggest those 2 islands be plants instead of trees if possible. Anybody have a problem with that?
You say planted with something other than
Plants,
trees?
Shrubs instead of trees.
I have no issue with that. As you get out of the car, I mean, you're going to park along that. As you get in and out of your car, you would want it to be something you could still open your car door and be able to get out, but I think that would be fine.
yeah, I think they'll meet the requirements, of having a shade tree within a certain distance of all the parking spaces, because, we were looking at that to begin with, and, because they have all of these, this one, so they should be okay with that. I'll double check that, but if it's compliant, it'll be, that's okay.
Overall, I think like before when we approved it back in February, I think they've done a good job overall with the plan.
I have a question. The detention basin, is that considered green space?
A portion of it. It's considered a portion of their open space and usable open space. They're, because they're putting a walking trail around it, it ties in here, then it runs along, comes down, and then it ties into the sidewalk and the pedestrian circulation around the commercial area. But it also wraps along here, comes back up, and then it ties in up here.
Okay. At one time, when I saw early plans, they had actually looked like they were putting a kind of a playground in that.
Yeah, the
Detention
detention
basin.
basin has been sort of an evolving thing. From the staff planning level, and this doesn't really matter for the landscaping, because the site plan's already been approved by the planning commission, but that was originally billed as more of a open green space area, but as it seemed like more and more drainage had to be put in it, and the previous engineer working on it had to keep making revisions to the plan to
I'm
get
glad
that
they
to work
changed that.
out.
I just don't want to see kids playing around that detention basin
Yeah.
if it was full of water.
Any more comments or questions to the staff?
Is it, Annette,
Yes,
do you have anything you want to add?
I don't.
What part of the project are you actually involved in?
Civil, just the civil. And we're submitting the plans for the landscape architect. Because I guess Mark had done that with his drawings before, so.
Yeah.
So we're just doing it, making any civil revisions.
Okay. So nothing else you have to add then?
I don't.
And this is the same landscape architect that worked on on the phase 1 plan, as well as the previous phase 2 plan that y'all reviewed and approved back in February. So there's been some unity on the landscaping at least.
Any other questions for Annette? No? Okay. Do we have a motion then?
I'll move for approval.
I'll second.
We've got a motion and a second, but we have a subject to that.
Yeah,
needs
subject
be
to
including
those
that in
islands
your-
being added.
The 2 islands.
Yeah.
Is that the only subject to? Is that right?
Yeah. Yep.
So we're making sure your motion is amended to add the subject to, correct?
And I'll second.
Need a second the amendment. Okay. We got a motion and a second with subject twos. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much. Appreciate it. All right, that's the last item on the agenda.
Civil engineer.
But I do know that we have talked about, and I think we discussed having a better discussion, I guess, this month about the time that the board meets. We currently meet at 7 PM, and we have met at 7 PM for a long time. I don't know when it was anything else. Maybe it's been a long time ago. And so I guess the question is, do we want to entertain moving the time from 7 PM to some other time? I know it works well for me at 7, but I think we're at the point of getting comments from board members to see if we should entertain making a change to that. So any comments about the time?
I have no issues.
7?
Works for me.
7, okay? We're all good with 7?
Yeah, I think 7 works.
Well,
Getting to 6, it's like dinner or not, you know, I mean.
it gets
Russian.
tough.
I'm in a, you know, as I said, Parks and Recs meet at 6, I think, and that can be difficult sometimes.
Yeah,
And especially in-person work and then traffic and
Yeah.
trying to get here, it
Yeah.
can be difficult. But it's been a topic that has come up over the last 2 or 3 meetings, so I think it's good tonight to have the discussion. I mean, this was sort of an informal thing, but do we need to vote on it and say we want to retain 7 PM?
no,
or is it
no,
just?
that's the way it's written into the bylaws. And in fact, in the next month or two, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get you a copy of the existing bylaws, because there are some changes we may want to make. That was one of them, but if you don't want to make that change, because it's actually written into the bylaws, so in order to have technically changed the time, we would have had to, have it on an agenda and formally amend the bylaws. But, there are a couple other things we might want to address, like the annual meeting. I think I brought up last time, it's odd that it's in August as opposed to July, considering new members come on in July. Normally we have a new student rep start every July, so most of the other boards, well, certainly the Planning Commission and Board of Zoning Appeals, their annual meetings are typically July, because that's the end of that's the beginning of the town's fiscal year. So, that's one change you may want to consider making. There are a couple other things. So I thought what I would do is get you all a copy of the bylaws. If you're not interested in changing the time, that'll just be one less issue to talk over. But we can update the bylaws on anything you want to, and then
Okay.
go from there.
Marty, do you know,
No.
did Brittany, did she bring it up? I was just curious how it got brought up, if folks that are not here tonight brought that up.
No.
The several of the town boards were thinking about doing that, and so the Board of Mayor and Aldermen has moved their meeting to 6, so they were wondering if the other boards wanted to follow suit. The Planning Commission has opted to stay at 7 as well. So,
Yeah, so it sort of came down that way.
Got it.
So, but I think we have a pretty good, we definitely have a quorum, and we all feel 7 o'clock works, so I think that takes care of that issue, so.
I just might add, Randy, that some of the committees changed the number of members, increase or decrease. Museum actually added more student members. So, I mean, we have options.
Yeah.
And it's just, you want to look at the charter and say, is there anything here we want to consider changing?
And I think
If
it's, right, I think it's a good thought, I really do, and I mean, for the town of Farragut, employees, like Bart and the other lady that works, I'm sure it's a late night, but, yeah.
Well, I mean, this one's not bad. Really, the one that's, that tends to be the latest meeting is the Planning Commission. These meetings tend to be pretty quick. Sometimes the Board of Zoning Appeals can be quite long, but they meet very infrequently. The Board of Mayor and Aldermen's a mix, but really the Planning Commission is the late night. I mean,
Yeah.
it's pretty common to be getting out of here after 10, sometimes later, but.
Yeah. Anything else?
That's all I have.
All right, so with that, we are going to adjourn the meeting. However, if the board members would hang around, we're going to do a little photography before we leave.
Can we wait
Meeting
to do that
adjourned.
next month?
Well, we can do another picture when we got everybody, but.